On the 30th of October 2011, Karen Swift, a 44-year-old mother of four from Dyersburg, Tennessee, was reported missing. She had last been seen the night before, after returning from a Halloween event. Her car, a white 2004 Nissan Murano, was later found abandoned near her home. Inside the vehicle were her mobile phone and some personal belongings, but Karen herself was nowhere to be found. The sudden disappearance of Karen Swift prompted an immediate search by local authorities, as friends and family grew increasingly concerned for her safety. Dyersburg, the county seat of Dyer County in northwestern Tennessee, is a small city with a population of around 17,000. Nestled among rolling farmland and stretches of forest, it embodies the quiet, slow-paced life typical of rural America. Its historic downtown, with century-old buildings and a stately courthouse at its center, reflects a community with deep roots and a strong sense of local identity. Life here moves at a measured pace, where neighbors know one another, and local events often bring the town together. Dyersburg is not only small and quiet, but also affordable. Housing costs are low, groceries and everyday expenses are modest, and most residents enjoy a cost of living well below the national average. Yet, despite its calm and economic simplicity, the town is not immune to tragedy, as the disappearance of Karen Swift in 2011 painfully reminded its community. On the evening of the 29th of October 2011, Karen Swift attended a Halloween party at the Dyersburg Country Club dressed as Catwoman. She went without her husband David, to whom she had been married for 22 years. A few weeks earlier, Karen had filed for divorce. Her eldest daughter, 9-year-old Ashley, was also going to a party at a friend's house. David stayed at home with their youngest daughter, Keely Shea. The couple had two older sons, Preston David and Dustin Glenn, but they were already adults and no longer living at home. Friends later recalled that Karen did not enjoy herself. Friends remembered that she felt out of place, even describing herself as a third wheel. She confided in one friend that she wasn't having much fun and simply wanted to leave. Despite the music, laughter, and festive decorations around her, Karen's mood was distant and uneasy. Karen left the Halloween party at the Dyersburg Country Club around 11:30 p.m. on the 29th of October 2011 with her friends Bill and Kathy Boner. Shortly after midnight, Karen received a phone call from her daughter Ashley, who had also not enjoyed herself at her friend's party. She asked her mother to pick her up, which Karen did, and they returned home together before 2 a.m. Both went to bed. Karen went to sleep in the bedroom on the ground floor. At the time, David was already asleep upstairs and did not wake until after 10 a.m., when the daughters woke him. That was when they realized Karen was not at home. Her car was also missing, which suggested she had gone out during the night. Kathy, her friend who had last seen her, tried calling her between 10 and 11 a.m., but without success. David also attempted to contact her, with the same result. As the situation seemed worrying, they decided to call the sheriff's office and report Karen missing. Kathy reported her first, followed by her husband. That same morning, Karen's car, a white 2004 Nissan Murano, was found less than half a mile from her home. It was discovered on Millsfield Highway, near the Harness Road intersection in northern Dyer County, with a flat tire. Later, a screw was found embedded in the tire. Investigators theorized that someone had deliberately punctured the tire and inserted the screw. But for what purpose? Karen Swift, née Johnson, was born in Galesburg, Illinois, on the 25th of January, 1967, and grew up in Arkansas as one of 3 children. She was known for being athletic and devoted to her children. Karen's family enjoyed a happy and financially stable life. Interestingly, her father, Gary, was artistically talented and painted pictures. In high school, she ran track and was quite successful. Karen never lost her love for running, even as she grew older. She often took part in local 5K races, enjoying the freedom and focus that each run brought. Her dedication to fitness extended beyond her own routine. She worked as a personal trainer and fitness instructor, helping others achieve their goals at the local YMCA. Through her work, she shared not just exercise techniques, but her energy, motivation, and a genuine passion for health and well-being. Karen was described as a warm person and the life of the party. She was well-liked. After high school, she pursued gardening, which became both her passion and, for a time, her work. She helped people design their gardens and greatly enjoyed doing so. In 1989, Karen married David Swift, and together they built a family, welcoming 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. Family was central to her life, but she also devoted herself to the wider community. She volunteered regularly, took part in church activities, and contributed to causes such as Habitat for Humanity. David was 3 years younger than Karen, and she was immediately taken with him. He was funny, charming, and well-liked by others. Their first children were the couple's 2 sons, and it initially seemed that they would have no more. Karen cared for the children and managed the household, not working professionally at the time. David earned a good living. He was the manager of a production line at a company called Tanneris. Karen was a devoted and attentive mother for whom her children were her priority. As is often the case, she became friends with other mothers at her children's schools. Their sons never caused problems, and when they were a little older, Karen began supplementing the household income by designing gardens. Life for the Swifts was going very well. The couple were also fairly religious and attended church regularly. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end. In 1999, Karen discovered that her husband was having an affair and his mistress was pregnant. This affair resulted in the birth of a son in late 1999 or early 2000. Understandably, Karen was devastated and had no intention of forgiving him. In early 2000, the couple divorced. Despite the separation, David attempted to win back his wife. He pleaded for forgiveness, claiming she was the love of his life and that the affair had been a terrible mistake. Reportedly, David pursued Karen persistently, appearing wherever she went, and he succeeded. A few months after the divorce, the couple remarried. In 2001, their daughter Ashley was born, and 3 years later, their youngest daughter arrived. After their reconciliation, the Swifts became more involved in church life, and Karen often spoke about the importance of forgiveness in marriage. David appeared very grateful to his wife for giving him a second chance. Everything seemed to be going well until another affair occurred. This time, Karen was unfaithful, and David forgave her. Once again, the marriage fought to survive. David believed that moving the family would resolve their issues by separating Karen from her lover. The move was sudden, and Karen reportedly did not even see their new house before moving in. In 2008, David and Karen Swift relocated from Pocahontas, Arkansas, to near Dyersburg, Tennessee, in Dyer County, to a residence on Willie Johnson Road. Their eldest son no longer lived with them, and the younger son was preparing to move out as well. The youngest daughters still required care. Karen, as she had with her older sons, supplemented the household income through garden design, but she remained primarily responsible for looking after her daughters and managing the home. The couple did not know anyone in the town, but Karen, being sociable, quickly made new friends. Soon, both David and Karen were invited to neighborhood gatherings, though David preferred to relax at home after work rather than socialize. Karen did not mind. If her husband did not want to go out, she simply went alone. In 2010, Karen met new friends, Bill and Kathy Boner, a married couple. They were the ones who accompanied her to the Halloween party. Both families had children, and the families became close friends. However, there was something about the Boners that David did not like, but which appealed to Karen. They were very social and enjoyed partying. Karen frequently attended their gatherings or went out with them to bars. Around this time, Karen reportedly began drinking more, which greatly displeased her husband. The couple increasingly argued over Karen's social lifestyle. After such arguments, Karen would reportedly leave the house and go to the Bonus. There were also rumors that the Bonus had an open relationship and were members of a club called the Pink Poodle Club, which the couple denied. David claimed that he had caught Karen in compromising situations at parties at the Bonus's home, including in a hot tub with Kathy Boner and, on a separate occasion, with Bill Boner. Bill Boner denied having an affair with Karen. Both Bill and Kathy admitted that guests sometimes got into their hot tub in their underwear or nude, but they strongly denied the existence of an organized swingers club and the other allegations made by David. According to David, his wife constantly used her phone, texting someone and disappearing from the house in the evenings. He became increasingly suspicious and began monitoring her. Karen's partying and frequent nights out upset him. He reportedly stopped trusting her and even began following her. Sometimes he would appear, by coincidence, in the same place as her and demand she return home. Numerous friends and neighbors said that David repeatedly spied on his wife, displaying controlling and stalking behavior. A neighbor, Janie Helm, claimed that David asked to access her yard so he could listen to what was happening at the Bonuses' house, where Karen frequently socialized. A friend of Karen's, Amanda MacArthur, recounted an incident in a parking lot where Karen pointed out David's car hidden at the far end, suggesting he was following them. Karen had obtained a second secret mobile phone to communicate privately with friends and her divorce attorney. Authorities later discovered that the number for this secret phone had been programmed into David's work phone, indicating he was monitoring her communications. Bill and Kathy said that Karen had long been considering divorce, but was afraid of David's reaction. When they divorced in 2000, he had been very persistent, stalking her, confronting her, and threatening self-harm. According to Karen, that reconciliation had been forced. She also said she could not afford a lawyer, as David tightly controlled her finances, and she worked only sporadically. The Bonus wanted to help Karen and lent her money so that she could file for divorce. Despite this, Karen remained afraid of David's reaction, and, around the time he was due to receive the petition on 10 October 2011, she went on a week-long holiday with her daughters. The Bonus accompanied her. On that day, Karen called her husband to inform him that she no longer saw a future for their marriage. The divorce petition, filed by her lawyer, requested primary custody of the children, child support, and half of their house. After returning from holiday, Karen stayed with Bill and Kathy Boner on several occasions when she feared being at home. David insisted that he had never struck Karen, and everything suggested he was telling the truth. The case of Karen's disappearance was treated very seriously by the police. It was quickly established that, as we already know, she had returned home with her daughter Ashley around 2 a.m., confirmed also by her phone's activity logs. At 4:38 a.m., the location of Karen's phone changed, indicating that she had left the house. As we know, her car was later located not far from her home, but there was no sign of Karen herself. Investigators believed it looked as if someone wanted to stage the scene to suggest Karen had driven somewhere, but her tire had been punctured, so she had gone on foot. Unfortunately, this suggested that something bad may have happened to her. Since David received the divorce papers on the 10th of October and was reportedly reluctant about the divorce, it was obvious that the first person the police wanted to question was him. During police interviews, David Swift appeared on crutches due to a recent knee injury. During the investigation, police noted that David's behavior stood out almost immediately. Officers described him as unusually distant and difficult to read. A former deputy testified that every time they asked David questions about Karen, he would look at the ground. He would not look me in the eye. For investigators, that lack of eye contact was concerning, often interpreted as a possible sign of deception or an attempt to avoid scrutiny. They also observed that David seemed focused almost entirely on Karen's behavior, rather than on the fact that she was missing and potentially in danger. He mainly complained that since Karen had met the Bonus, they had a bad influence on her. They were the ones who bought Karen the second phone, which she kept secret from her husband. Later, police would find this phone near the Swift home, completely destroyed. One investigator later said that David appeared unable to talk about anything except what Karen had been doing, which they interpreted as a red flag, remarking that it felt as though this guy is hiding something. As the interviews continued, detectives found several inconsistencies in David's statements regarding the last time he saw his wife alive. These contradictions deepened their concerns, particularly given the couple's troubled marriage and the ongoing divorce proceedings. Another detail that troubled investigators was that David was not the first person to report Karen missing. Instead, it was the family's close friends, Bill and Kathy Boner, who contacted the police after becoming worried. For detectives, it was unusual, even suspicious, that a husband would not be the first to raise the alarm. Authorities later discovered that David had lied about knowing nothing of Karen's second mobile phone, the private number she used to speak with friends and her divorce attorney. When investigators examined his work phone, they found that number saved on the device, contradicting his earlier statements. The bonus admitted that they had indeed lent Karen money for the divorce and had given her the phone, which David claimed he did not know about. According to them, David wanted to control Karen at every turn, and she had grown tired of it. As previously mentioned, David blamed Karen's new friends for the changes in her behavior. He did not claim he wanted to control her entirely, but he tried to persuade her to stop drinking so much and attending parties. He stated that at one party his wife had drunk so heavily that she could barely stand and, along with Kathy Boner, stripped naked in front of everyone and jumped into the hot tub. David was reportedly disgusted by this behavior. He also said that he often picked up his wife from such parties when she was heavily intoxicated, not to stalk her, but because he was genuinely concerned for her. Karen's friends confirmed that when she lived in Arkansas, she never behaved in such a party-focused way. On the contrary, she had looked after the children, attended church, and had her own principles. David suspected that his wife had engaged in another affair. In addition, the couple had a conflict with a neighbor, who could potentially have been a suspect in Karen's disappearance. There was a dispute between Karen Swift and her neighbor, John Hogshooter, over a dog poisoning incident that occurred a few weeks before her disappearance. Hogshooter was arrested on an animal cruelty charge for allegedly poisoning 2 neighborhood dogs, one of which belonged to the Swifts. Hogshooter later testified in court that the poisoning was not intentional. He claimed he had placed fly killer outside his home due to a fly problem caused by construction materials in his yard, and that he did not even know what the Swift's dog looked like. Due to this conflict, Hogshooter was initially identified as a person of interest in Karen's disappearance, and his vehicle and property were searched. However, police eventually cleared him of any involvement. Despite the dispute, Hogshooter provided testimony regarding David's suspicious behavior, such as observing him using crutches when others were around, but walking normally when alone. Karen's family were convinced she would never have left without her children, so the idea of her running away was completely ruled out. Yes, Karen wanted to leave her husband, but only with her children. There was speculation that Karen might have arranged to meet someone else after returning home, as she had been developing a new, more independent social life, communicating with people via a secret phone, and had admirers. Text messages revealed that she'd received one around 8:35 p.m. on the night of her disappearance from a man who wanted to take her to dinner, though it is not confirmed that they actually met. Weeks passed, and Karen was still missing. Unfortunately, this did not bode well. The primary suspect was, of course, her husband. On 10th November, the Swift residence was searched. The search was conducted by agents with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's Violent Crimes Response Team in Memphis, along with investigators from the Dyer County Sheriff's Office. The house was searched because it was the last place Karen had been seen alive and as part of standard investigative procedure. Forensic agents processed the scene for potential evidence. Despite a thorough search, initial reports indicate that investigators found no indication anything suspicious had occurred in the home, no blood splatters, etc. The house was searched multiple times over the course of the investigation, including a search nearly 2 years later, in July 2013, after a search warrant was obtained. The July 2013 search was described as in-depth, with drywall removed and screws taken out of the wood. But the nature and findings of this second search were sealed under a court order at the time.
Well, it was Easter morning. I had to have knee surgery. I had to have a total quadricep patella ruptured. Yeah. It was at my daughter's soccer game, and had to be taken by ambulance and had to have surgery the next morning. And about a week ago, it's been giving me a lot of problems. I haven't been able to stairs and stuff like that because they had to pull sutures and drill holes in the kneecap. It's restricted, but about a week ago, I was at work and turned wrong, so I had an appointment today with another specialist to get a second opinion. But on all this,
Is that her primary?
well,
Yes.
I'm finding out that she's got other phones, but that's the one that we've had, that she's had on the Verizon account that I pay for.
Right.
And
Any other ones you know of?
that she has, that she would have. Well, I found out yesterday that Bill and Kathy Bono had given her another cell phone. She'd been using it for, and
Any idea what that number is?
Kathy's neighbor, Janie, and she was talking about the situation. And that everything that was going on with Bill and Kathy, she said, if you want to know what's going on, you can come in my backyard and you'll see what all was going on.
Okay, explain to me what the situation.
We don't know.
You don't know?
We've done heard that about 3 times, I guess. So
From other people.
no,
For me, yeah.
You keep kind of hitting on it.
Okay, well, he was over there, all the time. She was here and started, sneaking out of the house, and she would go to be with Kathy and Bill. And I know even this past summer,
And when you say go to meet with them, when you go to party with them,
go party, and I find them naked in the hot tub in the backyard. I found Karen naked in bed with Kathy one night, which Kathy has a master's degree in psychology, but she has a dance studio. And I think that's been a lot of the stuff that's been missing with Karen's head and stuff, and then with the excessive drinking and partying that, there's been times during the day that, I'd come home early from work or something, and Karen would be, she was so drunk once that she was, had passed out on the porch in her own vomit.
she came home with Ashley. Ashley's your daughter, correct? Was there any kind of argument or anything there?
No, I just, he was very brief. I wanted to make sure that Ashley was okay, and that she was okay, because I questioned Karen about driving. Again, I said, if you can't drive, I'll get Ashley. And that was all the conversation was.
Okay. How close did you get to her? Could you tell whether she'd been drinking?
Oh, yeah, you could tell. I could always tell she drinking, and that was, but that was it. As soon as I realized that Ashley and they were unsafe, I went back upstairs and went to bed, and then I that's all I know until we got up about 10 Saturday morning.
Yes, right now, where do you think she is?
I don't know. I'm so worried about her. I mean, she could be anywhere. With Kathy telling me that at this point in time, if she knows that there was a ping on the Mississippi River, then that's where my mind's going now. Is she somewhere?
Do you think that she may have just told you that to throw you off? What if she's at her house?
Why would she be putting us through this and the girls?
Why have she done the things that she's done before and lied to you?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore. With all the lies, the deceitfulness.
What if she has left with somebody? How are you going to take that?
I just want her to come home and to be a mother. If she don't want to be a wife, that's her decision. I can accept that. But if there's someone else, as long as they're not hurtful or harmful, but to the girls or whatever, I just have to accept it. But
6 weeks after Karen Swift vanished, the search that had stretched across Dyer County finally led to a quiet patch of land near Bledsoe Cemetery, just 3 to 4 miles from her home and from the location where her abandoned SUV had been found. On 10th December 2011, 2 men, Mark Rickman and Pastor John Robinson, the cemetery trustee, walked through the wooded area to inspect a series of overturned tombstones. As they moved through the tangle of withered kudzu vines, something caught their attention. A small part of what appeared to be human remains was visible beneath the dense, dead vegetation. Looking closer, they realized with shock that it was a body. The remains were badly decomposed, almost hidden beneath the kudzu that had grown over them. The condition indicated the body had been there for some time, and investigators later concluded that this was not the place where Karen had died. Her body had likely been placed in that secluded spot after the murder. An autopsy later confirmed what many had feared. Karen Swift had died from blunt force trauma to the head. The case was officially ruled a homicide. The area where she was found had not been part of any initial search grid. It was quiet, isolated, and easily overlooked, the kind of place where someone hoped a body would never be discovered. There was no definitive evidence from the autopsy to indicate whether Karen had been sexually assaulted. Her body was badly decomposed when discovered 6 weeks after her disappearance, making forensic analysis extremely difficult. Despite this, investigators examined every piece of available evidence. A DNA analyst testified that an examination of Karen's panties, found pulled down around her thighs, revealed no male DNA. Likewise, her fingernail clippings contained no DNA other than her own. It appeared as though someone had struck Karen in the head, resulting in her death. It was also possible that the act was not intended to be fatal, but the blow was so unlucky that it caused her demise. Karen also had broken ribs, which investigators concluded were consistent with her being dragged across the ground after death. The primary suspect was her husband, while friends and neighbours came forward to report his jealous and controlling behaviour. Neighbour Jennifer Gurien testified that she frequently witnessed David arguing with and yelling at Karen. She also mentioned that whenever Karen visited her house, David would inevitably appear and insist she go home, demonstrating a pattern of possessive behaviour. Neighbours provided information that contradicted David's claims about his physical condition at the time of the disappearance. One neighbour testified that just 2 days before Karen went missing, David had helped him move heavy hay bales, around 65 pounds each, without using crutches. This contradicted David's later claim of having a debilitating knee injury that would have prevented him from moving Karen's body. Neighbour John Hogshooter testified that a few days after Karen was reported missing, he noticed a strong chemical smell coming from the direction of the Swift home. This observation was investigated as potential evidence of a clean-up effort, though the source was not definitively proven. Neighbours' interviews helped law enforcement and the jury understand the dynamics of the Swift household and David's personality, which the prosecution used to establish motive and a pattern of control. Karen had grown tired of her husband's possessiveness and controlling behaviour. She confided in friends, and this was the main reason she wanted a divorce. David, however, did not want to divorce, which could provide a motive. On his behalf, the couple's daughters testified that they had not heard anything alarming that night. Had there been an argument, it was likely one of the girls would have overheard shouting. Both daughters confirmed that their mother often went out in the evenings, so it was possible she had left that night and been attacked by a stranger. However, investigators were convinced from the outset that the perpetrator was David. They noted that David Swift had been searching dating sites, primarily Match.com, approximately 280 times in the period immediately surrounding and following Karen's disappearance in late October and early November 2011. The searches began as early as 10th October 2011, the day Karen served him with divorce papers, and continued intensely until 14th November 2011, when David's laptop was seized by authorities. The state argued that the frequency of these searches, within 24 hours of his wife being reported missing, indicated that David already knew Karen was not coming back. Some, however, argued that David's behaviour could be explained more simply. He had received divorce papers, knew the separation was imminent, and was presumably looking for someone new, which made a degree of sense. But the question remained: why did he continue browsing while his wife was missing and her fate unknown? He might have thought she had left him, but he could also have known what had actually happened. The judge ruled that this testimony regarding the dating site visits could not be admitted as evidence for the jury. The issue of David's knee injury also appeared suspicious. Some believed he was faking it to deflect suspicion. With such an injury, he would not have been physically capable of dragging his wife's body after her death. Yet just before her disappearance, he had helped a neighbour move heavy objects. This discrepancy was considered odd and suspicious, but aside from these circumstantial hints, investigators had little else. There were no witnesses, fingerprints, DNA, or other concrete evidence linking David to Karen's death. Years passed, and the case remained unsolved while life continued. David Swift moved on with his life. In 2014, he met Kelly Essman on the dating site Christian Mingle, and their connection eventually led to marriage. They wed in May 2016, roughly 3 years after Karen's tragic death, beginning a new chapter in David's life. Over time, David and his new wife relocated to Alabama. The years went by, and the killer of Karen Swift had still not been apprehended. On 8 August 2022, 11 years after Karen's death, investigators arrived at David's door with an arrest warrant. David Swift's arrest did not hinge on a single dramatic piece of physical evidence. Instead, it resulted from a careful re-examination of over a decade's worth of circumstantial evidence collected since Karen vanished. During this period, David's second marriage ended amid legal troubles. His wife, Kelly Essman, filed for divorce in June 2022, finalized in March 2023. She described feeling shocked and betrayed by his behavior during and after their marriage, admitting regret for not recognizing warning signs sooner and feeling misled by his apparent sincerity. She also reported harassment after their separation that caused genuine fear. Security footage showed him arriving at her home in the middle of the night, traveling a significant distance, highlighting the seriousness of the stalking. Authorities subsequently charged David with first-degree stalking in Alabama, underscoring a pattern of controlling and obsessive behavior similar to that reported by Karen's friends. While her account was not admissible in the Tennessee murder trial, it has been widely covered in news programs, providing additional insight into David's behavior. In May 2024, David Swift's murder trial began, attracting intense public attention. The case was high-profile, relying heavily on circumstantial evidence and witness testimony, portraying a marriage marked by tension and complexity. Ultimately, the evidence led to a verdict that left many questions unresolved. During the trial, prosecutors presented a key technological finding that bolstered their case. A forensic extraction from Karen's second, secret phone revealed that someone had used the device hours after she was last seen alive, placing a call to its own voicemail at 9:55 a.m. on the 30th of October 2011. That call was made while the phone was connected to the Swift family home's Wi-Fi network. Prosecutors argued that since Karen was already missing at that time, the only adult in the house who could have used the phone was David Swift. This suggested he had possession of the device and may have been manipulating evidence before police discovered it. Combined with the original circumstantial evidence, testimony about David's controlling behavior, the staged car accident, the feigned knee injury, and the chemical smell reported by a neighbor, this digital forensic detail was sufficient to secure a grand jury indictment and move the case to trial. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Danny Goodman, openly acknowledged that there was no DNA, fingerprint, or eyewitness evidence directly linking David to Karen's death. Instead, their case focused on motive and behavior. They argued that David had killed Karen out of anger and rejection following her divorce filing 3 weeks earlier, and her refusal of his repeated attempts at reconciliation. Friends of Karen testified to his jealous and controlling nature, describing incessant calls, spying on her at friends' homes, and showing up uninvited at social gatherings. Forensic evidence also played a role. A digital forensic examiner testified about David's online activity, highlighting that someone had accessed Karen's secret phone on the home Wi-Fi the morning she disappeared, after she was already missing. Physical evidence included testimony from a tire expert, who suggested that a screw found in Karen's abandoned car tire had been manually inserted, indicating the flat tire had been staged. The medical examiner confirmed that Karen had died from blunt force trauma to the head. The defense, led by attorney Daniel Taylor, maintained David's innocence, emphasizing the lack of concrete proof. They highlighted the absence of physical evidence directly linking him to the murder, arguing that if he had brutally killed Karen, there would be forensic traces. David's significant knee injury and reliance on crutches were presented as proof that he was physically incapable of moving her body. Character witnesses also defended David. Karen and David's daughter, Ashley Swift, testified that her father had been a kind and involved parent, disputing claims that he had moved her into another room on the night her mother disappeared. The defense also raised alternative theories, suggesting that Karen's social life involved risks and that others, including a neighbor with ongoing conflicts with the Swifts, could have been responsible. The trial presented a complex clash of narratives, the prosecution painting a picture of a controlling, vengeful husband, and the defense emphasizing the lack of direct evidence and alternative explanations. The result left the central questions of Karen Swift's death shrouded in uncertainty and debate. Additionally, his physical therapist, identified in reports as either Mr. Smith or Carrie Smith, testified for the defense regarding the state of David's knee at the time of Karen Swift's disappearance. The therapist explained that David experienced significant difficulty with movement, including walking and handling heavy objects. While acknowledging that David could lift weights of up to 100 pounds, the therapist emphasized that lifting is not the same as moving. In their professional opinion, moving a heavy object, such as a human body, even a short distance, would have been extremely challenging for him and likely would have required assistance from another person. The defense used this testimony to argue that David was physically incapable of committing the murder and disposing of Karen's body on his own. However, the prosecution countered this with testimony from a neighbor who reported seeing David moving 65-pound hay bales without crutches just one day before Karen disappeared. After his murder trial in Tennessee concluded in June 2024, David Swift remained in custody despite being found not guilty of murder because the jury had been deadlocked on a voluntary manslaughter charge. In March 2025, the judge dismissed the remaining charge due to the statute of limitations, clearing the way for his release. On the 18th of March 2025, David Swift was released from Tennessee custody and immediately transferred to Alabama to face separate stalking charges involving his second ex-wife, Kelly Essman. The extradition marked the next chapter in his ongoing legal battles, as authorities in Alabama prepared to pursue the case against him. Ashley Swift recalled the long, agonizing wait for the verdict. When it was finally delivered, she initially felt a sense of closure, believing the case was over. But soon, she realized it was not. David is innocent, Ashley said. She firmly believes her father is being falsely imprisoned while awaiting a new trial. That stark reality has made moving on difficult. I want justice for my mum, and I want my dad home, she admitted. But I want to live a normal life. Caught between grief and hope, Ashley continues to navigate the delicate balance of honouring her mother's memory while holding on to her belief in her father's innocence. And what do you think? What happened on that tragic day? Karen Swift will be remembered as a loving mum and a great friend, though the full truth of what happened may never be known. Rest in peace, Karen. As always, thank you so much for listening to this story until the very end. Take care of yourselves.